Hi there, dear friends. Welcome to a wet and very mild winter day in Sweden. I am Sarah and I run this YouTube channel where I share my gardening projects. I live in Sweden and I try to make videos to inspire people to grow their own food at home. And today I am out in my garden taking pictures for another article at sarahbackmo.com. And I just ran into the house to get my selfie stick and the microphone because I want to share this with you because I know many of you watching my channels are interested in growing vegetables, harvesting in wintertime, and to be able to go out in the garden even if it's like winter or fall or whatever and get something to eat from the garden. And I live in Sweden and most often we do have quite cold winters. It's not that cold today. We are above zero, a few degrees plus Celsius. But even though it's cold or mild, doesn't matter, I can still store some of the things I have grown in my garden in clamps. And I want to show you today how I do this, how easy peasy it is to store vegetables in wintertime, to be able to go out in the garden and get fresh root vegetables to eat all through winter. I get so enthusiastic about this. It is really amazing. And you know, I have been gardening now for 10 years. I have been very passionate about it. And my goal is to grow that much food so we can be self-sufficient with vegetables and greens from the garden. And my wish is to share more on this specific subject with you next year, on how to become a self-sufficient gardener wherever you may grow your vegetables. And a key, of course, is to store some of the vegetables that you grow in summer and harvest in fall, let's say, because it's not possible to go out and get things that grows in winter in such a cold climate. So you need to have some plan on how to store your vegetables, right? And when I was new to gardening, I was a bit confused because we don't have like a barn or an outhouse or whatever where we can store the vegetables. It's a classical way to do it is to have like huge buckets or whatever, and you fill it with sand or the whatever, let's say sand, and you place the root vegetables in the sand and it will keep it from freezing, and you put that in your garage or whatever. The point is they should be kept where it's not frozen in winter. And when I was kind of new then, I was confused because we did not have that space. So how to deal with it? And I found the thing called clamp, and it can be done in so many ways. So you basically dig a hole in the ground and you bury your vegetables in there, root vegetables, and you put a layer of like straw or leaves or whatever on top as an isolation, and prevent it to get too wet, and of course that animals will reach the place and start to eat from it. So I tried to do that for several years out in the main kitchen garden, and I found out, hi Nami, I found out that in the main kitchen garden the best place to put a clamp were in the section where I'm going to grow the beans and the peas next season. The reason why is because I do not want to disturb that place by digging and getting the vegetables in wintertime, because some places in the garden I sow and I plant very early, but the beans and the peas are sown late in the season, and that's why it's good to choose that place. But I think after 2 or 3 seasons with a clamp out in the main kitchen garden, hi Ingela, I watched a video on YouTube from a woman in south part of Sweden, and she actually took a huge bucket or a pot. She put all her root vegetables in there. She put it in the greenhouse, and then just like put a carpet or some fabric around it, and it's stored very well all through winter in south of Sweden. And I was just like, something like that maybe. And then in 2015, when I had this big polytunnel, I then started to bury my vegetables, my root vegetables, in clamps in the polytunnel. Never snows in here, never rains in here. I can always reach the space. It's never muddy or like disgusting in any way. It's super. And it doesn't look very attractive. And this year I just took whatever I had like in reach. But I want to show you. We are now in late December. And the vegetables I keep here in Sweden, buried in the ground in a clamp, actually 2 clamps, will store easily until, let's say, April. The beginning of April, I take what's left. I take what's left, the vegetables, and I bring it into the fridge. So I keep it in the fridge for a few weeks until we have finished eating. And they will store perfect, most of them. I will tell you what's not very good to store. But first, let me show you. It looks a bit funny, I know, but I'm so excited about this. So this one I actually took a few pictures of today. And I know you think maybe, well, what's this? Why is this worth watching? But if you live in a cold climate like I do, this could be the key on how to become self-sufficient in vegetable, grow all the kind of vegetables you need and store some of them in winter. So here I have 2, I don't know what you call it exactly, but you see I have wet leaves on top. It's not a basket, it is, in Swedish we would say back. Look at these beauties. And it is actually 2 on top of each other. So one of them is buried like way down under the surface. I have a lot of soil who comes close here, so I can't show you, but yeah, it's in here. And this plastic bag on top is just to prevent water from the roof to drop into this place. And as I said, it's been a mild winter, and you can see that because the carrots sprout. Here's a slug. And this is not good because you don't want the roots to grow, because when they grow and put new leaves, they use the energy in the root to grow. And I want it to store good. So hopefully it will get a bit colder. But you see the size of it. In my last live stream, when I made the winter sowing over here, I talked to you about the carrots and different varieties. So this is the winter variety. Don't know which one, maybe Rothild or someone else. In here I also have, this is a Swede, kålrot. I have lots and lots of beetroots because I grew lots of beetroots this year. I had so many I had to give them away. I have a few of the Jerusalem artichokes as well. And I have some turnip, I think, too. I mean, this is our food. Isn't it amazing? You simply bury it, cover it with some leaf, and it will stay here all winter long. And when it's mild outside, I don't cover this clamp that much. Some leaves on top, like this, and it's good if it's a bit wet, the material, so that the vegetables don't dry out, because that's a bit of a threat. And now you have to consider we are in Sweden. You know, if I can do this in Sweden, who can't? This is a winter carrot as well. It's amazing. And it's super tasty, super tasty. In this one, I seem to have a few of my babies, precious root celeriac. They are beautiful. So here you can see the basket. This is a basket, just one of them. And it doesn't matter, I mean, if the soil reaches the vegetables, they are grown in soil, so they don't bother. And the soil actually keep this place from like drying completely. I said to my Swedish viewers in another day that it's very important when you harvest the root celeriac that you do that before you see the worms. You do that before the frost, because root celeriac gets frost damages very easily, and you don't see that when you harvest the celeriac. But if you store it, it will rot, and especially on the top here, and it will spread down to the lower parts of the root celeriac. This makes me so happy. So happy. And if I had knew about the possibilities, I think, when I was a new gardener, I would have been more enthusiastic, because I spent a season or two feeling a bit disappointed. I wanted so many things, but I didn't think it was possible for me to achieve that, simply because when you speak about how to become self-sufficient in vegetables, most often you talk about how important it is to have your barn or the outhouse where you can keep things. And the fact that many of us who live in houses today, we do not have the cold spaces indoors where we can keep things. We don't have the food cellar that was very common in the Swedish countryside and houses before. I mean, many people live in houses, they are kept warm, very warm. You can't even keep the, buckets of or glasses of jars with the, sylt. My brain is confused. Indoors, because it will be destroyed in the heat. But in this way, it's actually possible to do a lot of things, and it doesn't have to look like super fancy. I mean, this kind of storage place do not fit in a nice garden magazine, right? But this is actually how we can store food for a very long time. I put the vegetables in the ground here in, I think, October, the beginning of October. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April. It's like 7 months, 6 or 7 months. And it's possible to keep them here. And whenever I go here nearly once a day, so when I'm cooking, like yesterday I made a stew with the lamb, and we had carrots to that. It was amazing. I had like lamb, minced lamb, tomatoes, the leek, garlic. I had corn, And then we had fried spinach and carrots to that. So I just go out here. It's like getting something in the fridge, but I need to put my shoes on and just run out in the garden. And it makes me happy every time too. So it's not that it's miserable. I have to go out in my garden in winter time to get some food. It's amazing. So before I quit, a friend is coming by just in a few minutes with her dog, and we're going to take a walk. What I do is that I choose a space in my greenhouse that I know I don't have to use that for the next months. All right, so I have enough space in the rest of my garden, in the rest of my greenhouse to use. And in this case, I dug in 2 big holes as deep as I could. And I put the soil somewhere else over here. And then I put the baskets in the hole, and I put the vegetables into the basket, and I mixed it with wet leaves and some soil. And then I simply put back some of the soil around the basket as an isolation, and then leaves all over this place, not dry leaves. I think I watered them because they were a bit too dry. And then I have this ugly plastic bag on top of one of the clumps, and I have a big lid on top of the other, and prevent it to drop water from the roof into the vegetables. Most people ask about mice. Will I keep the vegetables? And we do have mice in this place, but I don't know, they are never interested in eating. And we also have another kind of animal. I don't know the English name for it, but in Swedish it's sork. Looks like a really big mouse, but with a shorter tail. And it lives underneath the ground and it digs holes. It's just awful. But we do have 4 cats in the garden, and one of them stays here most of the time, and I can see that she hunted already, and that was why I put the net on top of the bed here. Here's a hole. Right, but they don't seem to go into the clumps. I guess they prefer just other things. So yes, my friends, it looks a bit messy and not very attractive. But it's my lovely storage place for the vegetables I have grown. I have loved growing them and thinking about, the winter, when we are still able to eat fresh food from our own garden. It makes me so happy. And the thing is that it's not only, the thing that we eat from our own garden. It's the fact that I have grown this food. I have thought of my family. I have been feeling well doing it. I love to be out in my garden, etc., etc. And all of it is in a way stored into the vegetables that I store in my clumps. So this is the way you can store root vegetables for a very long time in the ground, in a cold climate, or in a not very cold climate. The thing you should think of is that it cannot be too cold. But if you dig down like a bucket, I have seen people digging down, in this size. So you get way down underneath, the surface where it's not freezing cold. And it's important also that it's not too warm, because then the vegetables will start to sprout, and that's not good. You have to keep it in a good temperature. And the best temperature to store root vegetables is somewhere between 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius. And I managed to keep it that way all through winter here in Sweden in my polytunnel, even though it's very cold outside some part of the winter. So this was what I wanted to show you today, because I was like dancing a bit only for myself when seeing this result. It's amazing. But now I will go change my clothes and take a nice walk with 2 big dogs with my good friend Erica, and I'll see you again another day. Take care, all of you. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.